First of all, a happy new year to all of you. This is my first video of 2019. Now today I have come to an absolutely stunning part of the Isle of Man coastline called White Beach, and this sits close to a famous location called Niarbyl on the southwest coast of the island. And this is probably the most outstanding section of coast on the entire island. It's absolutely breathtaking, but believe it or not, it's not actually an area that I have photographed all that much. So I've come down today to try and put that right, really. The weather's not particularly playing ball today though. It's quite grey, overcast. You get an occasional burst of sunlight coming through, but by and large it's not the most inspiring conditions, but we'll try and make the best of it. The beach behind me is only about 150 metres long, so there's not very much space, but I think it packs an awful lot of photographic potential into a very small area. So I'm going to have a wander up the beach and see what compositions I can find. Is it just me, or is seascape photography one of the most stressful types of landscape photography? I think it's the dynamic of the incoming tide or the outgoing tide, and that sense of the ticking sort of clock that's always in the background. And I don't know, it never fails to get my heart pumping. And I found that when I first started setting up today. So you can see just behind me here, we've got these beautiful rocks here, really, really photogenic. And I found some cracking compositions, but I just couldn't get the shot quick enough before the actual water came in. And it's probably my own fault. I probably should have got here a little bit earlier to find those compositions, but sometimes that's easier said than done, because you kind of need the water, and you need to know how the water's interacting with the rocks in order to find those compositions. So yeah, it was very tough. I managed to get a few shots of that rock, but I'm not entirely sure how they actually turned out. And then I went a little bit further down the coast there and stood on some rocks kind of about there and took a few more images. And I think there's potential in them, but I really won't know properly until I get home. Thankfully now though, I'm getting blessed with some quite nice light. You can see kind of there's cloud cover kind of about there, but the sun's starting to dip below those clouds. So we might actually be in for some pretty nice light conditions, and fingers crossed, maybe even a sunset. Right, the pressure's on. We're definitely going to get a sunset. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's probably going to happen in about half an hour's time. So the pressure is on now. I need to find a composition. So I'm going to put the vlogging camera down now, run around like a headless chicken, and try and lock down a composition before my time runs out. I found my first composition and it took about 5 minutes, which means I may actually have time for some more shots if or everything actually goes to plan. What caught my eye with this shot, as you can see, there's a mountain stream that just kind of meanders its way down to the sea, and it just meets the sea just here. There's a nice bend in this stream just round here, and right behind it you can see those iconic jagged rocks, and the sun is actually setting right behind those rocks. So I think the combination of this stream and those rocks with the sunset behind works quite nicely. The stream almost draws the eye through the actual shot right to the rocks and where the sun is setting. So I think in terms of a composition, that's worked out quite nicely indeed. In terms of settings for this shot, I'll just have to remind myself, I am shooting at f13, about a fifth of a second, ISO 64 at 18mm. And I've got a Cirular Polariser on there just to take a little bit of the glare off the water, and I've also got a 2-stop soft edge hard grad filter just to sort of deepen the exposure in the sky and punch out those colours in the setting sun. you'll have to excuse me. I am taking pictures while I vlog. The time pressures of seascape photography with a setting sun. I'm not even looking at the water, I'm just doing it based on my peripheral vision. I found another composition, as you can tell, so I've got my camera set up here. Now what really caught my eye is you can see these rocks just here, these kind of like long slithers of rock that kind of run back from the actual sea. It makes for a really interesting foreground in combination with all these pebbles that you can see around me. I think that works quite nicely. But what also works nicely is you can see that that iconic rock just sits there and the sun is just setting to the side of it. So in the composition that I've picked out, I've actually got that rock and the setting sun in the right of my shot. And then in the left of the shot, you can see the coastline here just kind of sweeps down into the distance. So I think it works very well for a nice balanced shot overall. For that particular image, I shot it at f13, half a second, ISO 64, at about 18mm. Also with the Cirular Polariser on the front and the 2-stop hard edge grad. The sun has just set, so we've run out of opportunities for sunset images, but I still feel there's an awful lot of potential in and around this beach. So I'm gonna kind of linger around a little bit longer into the blue hour and just see what opportunities present themselves. I still think there's potential in these rocks that I haven't quite unlocked yet. So I'm gonna linger around that a little bit longer and yeah, see if any moments of inspiration come to me. I found another composition and I'm quietly confident about this one. So the rock that you can see here that I've been banging on about an awful lot, from this particular vantage point, it's probably at its most eye-catching and dramatic due to the sheer angle of it coming out of the water. But there's lots of other kind of substones that sit in and around the base of it. So when you've got the surf kind of rushing in round it, it makes for a really, really eye-catching image, I think. But then also to this side, you've kind of got the coast kind of running down into the background. So I kind of feel like a panoramic crop of these kind of components could make for a really nice shot. Also, the sun set about 20 minutes ago, but we're still getting nice punchy colours in the sky, a nice kind of soft kind of blue light at the moment. So personally, I feel this has got all the ingredients for a winning image. In terms of settings, it's going to be very difficult to tell you what settings I'm going to use on the final image that I'm ultimately going to choose, because I took a whole sequence of images there and the light levels were constantly changing, so my exposure was constantly changing, so my kind of aperture and shutter speed were all over the place, frankly. I'll put the actual settings for the final image that I've selected down at the bottom for you now. The light is dropping away really rapidly now, so I'm going to pack up my stuff and call it a day. Ultimately, I think it's been quite fruitful. I think I've got 2 or 3 images that I'm pretty satisfied. It wasn't without its challenges though. As much as I love seascape photography, it stresses me out, it really does, and I think I need to learn how to manage my time better, and I need to visit these locations in a more timely manner, because honestly, if you could actually watch the behind the scenes footage of this vlog, it would be like a Benny Hill sequence. It's ridiculous. I'm running all over the place trying to find compositions, trying to get B-roll, trying to film vlog sequences like this, all against the timer of the setting sun and the incoming tide. It is chaotic, to say the least. As always, thanks very much for joining me today. It means an awful lot. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. The support means so much to me and helps keep my morale up, which is very much needed on these winter landscape photography trips sometimes. What you didn't see before is a wave caught me out and went over the top of my wellies, and I have got very wet, cold feet, and I've had it pretty much for the entire afternoon. But enough of the moaning. If you've got any comments on the images that I took, what actually worked, what didn't, let me know below. And I will see you all again back on the Isle of Man for some more landscape photography. Goodbye.